So I just want to, I've never spoken in a church before today, ever. I've never even thought about it. So yeah, it's kind of great, actually. So I will not be political, and actually deep down I'm not very political. I'm actually less political than I've ever been, which is odd considering I host a nightly political show on a political network in the most political moment in our history, certainly since, the last 140 years. But the question really is, what is going on? And it's a little bewildering for me since I have done a species of the same job for over 20 years. Go on TV, debate the public policy issues. They typically break down along left and right. And it's been pretty straightforward. There's an argument about what the country ought to do corporately as a country, and each side marshals evidence to support their respective cases. I think we ought to do this, and here's my evidence. The other side says the same, and viewers can decide who's got the most evidence. This is often described as a left-right debate, and it has been. And now, with the temperature rising, I would argue to probably dangerous levels in Washington, people often come up to me in airplanes and say, the partisan bitterness is so intense. People are in their camps. It's become tribal. It's awful. And of course, I agree with that completely. But it does raise the question, what is this actually about? And it's something that I've brooded on for the last year and a half as it's gotten more intense. And my initial assumption, as I just said, was that this was a debate over ideas. And it's not. It's nothing like that. And one of the reasons that the rest of us are so unsettled by this is because we don't recognize what's actually happening. This is a theological debate. This is a spiritual debate. And let me just say very clearly, it's not a debate between good and evil. I know a lot of people on the other side, they're my neighbors. I live in a city that voted 96% for a candidate I didn't vote for and would never vote for. And they're good people, a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And a lot of them are my friends. So when I'm debating someone, I don't assume that that person is a bad person because most of them aren't. But that doesn't mean that it is not a religious debate. That's what it is. So my whole childhood into my adulthood, the debate was between people of faith and people of reason. That was the way the debate was presented to us, between people who believed in God and people who believed in science. I was always more on the God side, but I acknowledge science. That's no longer what it is. And this came to me recently, maybe 6 months ago, during a debate on gender and the biological reality of gender, which is being challenged.
Flashback.
And yes, the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay.
Gender identity determines one's gender.
Let me ask you
period.
this.
This is a matter of civil rights.
Is there science behind this? Because I know that I'm often getting
science.
Really,
absolutely science.
I want you to name a single scientist, just one, who says you can determine your own sex just by saying so. Can you name one scientist who says that?
I'd be happy to send you many after.
A scientist who said you can determine your own sex. An actual scientist, like someone who went to college.
Listen,
are you serious?
You clearly have some issues around this.
It's not an issue at all. I have questions that you can't answer. And you're instead throwing things like you're not enlightened. I'm asking you a sincere question. What's the science behind this? And you're deflecting. Why?
I'm simply not deflecting. This is a matter of settled science, and it is something.
What's the science exactly? That you are what you say you are? Could I change my race too? And don't dodge that question. That's a real question.
No, you cannot.
Why?
Change
Why
your race.
can't I change my race, but I can change my sex? What's the difference?
That is not about changing. It is not about changing.
But why
this
isn't
is about
it?
Inherently who people are.
Really? But if I say I'm inherently of another race, who are you to say I'm not?
I mean, again, you're getting into these silly hypotheticals.
It's not silly at all. 2 years ago, nobody thought you could change your own sex. And you're saying it's settled science.
End of flashback.
Everything they told me in 6th grade turns out to be true. We have boys and girls, they grow up to become men and women. This is not the product of our choice, it's not what we want, it's what happens organically because it is nature. And nature, by its nature, is something over which we have no control. We can't make the sun rise, we can't stop the hurricanes. We have to adjust our lives to the things we did not create and cannot control. That is called reality. Amen. It is as we find it. And we are the ones who adapt. All of a sudden, and this seems self-evident to me, that's not a political question. By the way, if you can stop the sun from rising, go ahead and show me. and I'll be impressed. And you can redefine the terms of the debate. But until you do that, I'm going to assume that we're both working off the same set of notes here called biological reality. And in the middle of that debate, which very quickly became a non-debate, became one person talking and me staring like a golden retriever, like, well, really? I learned that I was talking to someone who believed that he had control over nature itself. I don't think there should be two sexes, therefore there aren't. Now, at the level of like college dorm room theorizing, I could, okay, maybe there should be more sexes. I don't know. Maybe there should be free ice cream. I'm for that. But there isn't. And there aren't. And in that moment, I realized I was not having a political conversation, I was having a theological one. And once I began to see the world through that lens, everything made sense. There are two camps. They are not Republicans and Democrats. They are not liberals and conservatives. Those terms mean less than they have meant in my lifetime. I couldn't exactly tell you what a conservative is on the issues. What tax rate does a conservative support? I don't know. Is a conservative for invading Syria? I'm not sure. So it's actually not the root argument. The root argument is, do you think you're in control of the universe or don't you? That is what we're actually debating. And it goes by various names. There's a lot of deception that prevents us from seeing what's really being discussed. But the truth is, the people who run most of our institutions in this country, and by the way, they're of both parties, tend to believe that they are wholly in charge. This is really a debate about who's in charge. It's a debate ultimately in charge. It's a debate over power. And the one thing that powerful people can never admit is that their power is limited. In fact, it's harder to get them to admit that. I'm just searching for a metaphor here. Maybe than to get a camel through the eye of a needle. That's what that's really about, in my opinion. The more power you have, the harder it is for you to admit that in the end you have no power. That is the thing they are hiding from you. And that is the thing they will go to any length to prevent you from knowing. That in the end, they're as sad and terrified as you are, as we all are, because that's the nature of living as a human being, with the unknown and with the powerlessness of being human and not being God. So look, here's the point. It used to be the faithful versus the secular. I don't know if that was ever true. I don't think there is a secular person, period. We are hardwired for faith. It is baked in the cake. It's who we are. So the question is, are you going to worship God or are you going to worship man? That's the question. And so that is the debate. And you see it, I mean, that is why if you look up at your screen, and I hope, though I do work in TV, I hope you don't spend too much time watching television, probably not so good for you. When you look up and you see people and you think, wait, I can't tell if I agree with that person or not. Person says he agrees with me, but I can tell he's not speaking for me. It's because the categories have been completely shifted around. There are people who say they're in your party, on your side, have your beliefs, and yet at the very bottom of their assumptions is the belief that they're in charge. I think once you know that, it puts everything in perspective. Once you know that you're not in charge, your whole worldview changes. You're much less vulnerable to hubris, which is the great killer. What comes before the fall? Anyone? Oh, I love that. Can I get an amen? They don't say that in my church. I love that. Can I get a witness? My whole life I've wanted to say that. Thank you. You just made a dream come true for an Episcopalian boy from Washington. That's so awesome. Excuse me. Anyway, it's not a question of what specific bullet points in somebody's platform you believe or support. I'm sure if you unfurled the Republican platform, there are things I've never heard of and don't agree with. Same with the Democratic platform. The only question that matters is, do you think you're God?
You can disagree, but don't hate.
Amen. On that, that's a Christmas message we can get behind. Senator, thanks so much. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Tucker. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.